There's a certain kind of smile that has nothing warm behind it. The kind that sits on a face like a mask placed carefully over something else entirely. I didn't have the words for it when I was 15. I do now. The Appalachian camping trip was supposed to be a rite of passage. Every summer, my Uncle Dave organized a 4-day backcountry trip for whatever combination of nephews, cousins, and neighbor kids could get parental sign-off. I'd been hearing about it my whole childhood, the fire-cooked meals, the night hikes, the sense of being genuinely far from everything. The summer I turned 15, I finally made the cut. There were 6 of us all together: my uncle, my older cousin Brett, 3 guys from Brett's school named Colin, Marcus, and Tyler, and me. We set out on a Monday morning, signed in at the ranger station trailhead, and hiked roughly 9 miles into the backcountry to a designated campsite beside a narrow creek. The site was beautiful and completely isolated. The nearest trail junction was 4 miles back, and we hadn't passed another hiker since early afternoon. We set up camp, cooked over the fire, and by 10 o'clock most of us were in our tents. The woods were loud with insects and the sound of the creek. My uncle said that was a good sign that when the woods go quiet is when you really need to pay attention. I filed that away, the way you file away information you don't yet understand the importance of. I was nearly asleep when I heard my uncle's voice outside, low, conversational, the tone he used when he didn't want to wake anyone. Then I heard another voice responding, deeper, unhurried. I couldn't make out the words, only the cadence. I unzipped my tent just enough to peek out. A man was standing at the edge of our campsite, just inside the reach of the dying firelight. He was wearing what looked like a park ranger uniform, the flat-brimmed hat, the olive green shirt, the badge catching a flicker of light on his chest. He was holding a flashlight pointed at the ground, and he was smiling at my uncle. It was a smile that, even at 15, made me feel vaguely uneasy without being able to explain why. My uncle thanked him for stopping by. The man said something about routine wellness checks on registered backcountry sites, said he was glad we were settled in safely, and told us to have a good night. He turned and walked back into the trees, and his flashlight beam disappeared within seconds. It seemed faster than the distance should have allowed. My uncle came back to the fire, noticed me watching, and told me it was just a ranger doing his rounds. Nothing unusual. Go back to sleep. I did. Eventually, he came back at 2 in the morning. I know the time because Colin had a watch with a luminous face, and he was already awake when it happened. He told us the next morning he heard footsteps circling the campsite for several minutes before the man appeared again at the edge of the firelight. By then the fire had burned down to coals, and the light was so poor that you had to look directly at him to confirm he was even there. My uncle woke up. I heard the zip of his tent, his footsteps, and then voices again, the same low register as before, but shorter this time, less than a minute. When I looked out, the man was already at the tree line, and I caught only his silhouette before the darkness completely took him. My uncle stood at the edge of camp for a long, long moment before coming back. In the morning, nobody said much about it over breakfast. My uncle had this quality of deliberate calm that the rest of us tended to follow without questioning. So we broke camp, hiked out, and reached the trailhead by early afternoon. The ranger station was a small building beside the parking lot. My uncle went inside while the rest of us loaded our gear into the truck. He was in there for longer than seemed necessary just to sign out. When he finally came back, he put his pack in the truck bed without looking at any of us. He stood with his hands on the tailgate for a moment before he spoke. He told us what the woman at the station had said, that no ranger had been assigned to our trail section on Monday night. That wellness checks weren't standard protocol for registered backcountry sites in this park, and that the uniform he described, the specific cut, the badge placement, the color of the patches had been phased out of service for this district back in 2009. It had been replaced with a newer design when the park changed its federal designation. Nobody said anything for a few seconds. The silence was heavy. Then Tyler asked what that meant. My uncle just said he didn't know. He said the station woman had taken down our names and our campsite number and said she'd look into it. He said we should probably get on the road. We drove for almost an hour before anyone spoke. It was Marcus who finally said the thing the rest of us had been sitting with since the parking lot. He said, "Why did he come back at 2 a.m. if it was just a wellness check?" My uncle's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel, just slightly, but it was just enough that I noticed from the back seat. He didn't answer. He has never answered in all the years since. I brought it up twice, once when I was in my 20s, and once more recently. Both times he does the same thing. He acknowledges it happened. He agrees it was strange, and then he moves on with a speed that tells me he has thought about it far more than he has ever been willing to say. What I keep coming back to isn't the uniform. It isn't even the 2 a.m. visit, though that's the part that lives in my chest when I think about it for too long. It's the smile, the one I caught in the firelight that first night. I've spent a lot of years trying to find the right word for it. The closest I've ever come is this. It was the smile of someone who had already made a decision and was pleased with it and was simply passing the time until the appropriate moment arrived. Something changed my uncle's mind about what that moment was, or maybe he changed it himself. I've never been certain which one I'm more grateful for. Thank you for listening. If you have any similar stories, I'd love to read them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.